Hey, this is Scott, and today I want to talk about a couple of my new favorite lights, the BladeLights from Flolight. So yes, I did say that these are some of my new favorite lights, but they are a bit niche, at least for me. I'm not going to be using these most of the time as my key light, although they definitely could be used as that very easily and they would work really great. I've been using these for a few very specific setups, and I've absolutely loved them for that, but even more than that, I've loved the fact that they're just so versatile, and like I said, they could very easily be used as key lights as well, and pretty much anything that you want to use them for, they will do it. But first, let's go over just the basics of what these lights are, how they work, and throughout that we'll talk about some of the things that I liked and I disliked, and then I'll talk about how I've been using them in my setups these past few weeks. I have the 18-inch and 36-inch bi-color versions. This is the 36-inch here, which is why it doesn't all fit on the screen. I'm using the 18-inch right now as my rim light. And they do also have daylight color versions, and I believe tungsten color versions, and even a green screen version. So these are just incredibly versatile. But for me, I've loved having the bi-color versions because it just really, again, adds to how versatile this one single light can be. These are kind of like quasar LED tubes, but on steroids. They have a single strip of LED lights down the center of this, and they're built into this really rugged, heavy-duty metal body, which does serve a few purposes. All of the delicate parts in here are in the controller box, so this rugged heavy-duty metal body means that you could really give this thing a beating and it would still keep on kicking. It's really tough. The design of the body also gives you a couple of slots in front of the LEDs where you can slide in things like this diffusion filter or color filters, which are included depending on which version you get, as well as the lens that focuses the beam of light. And there are a couple slots available for both of these, for the filters and also for that lens, and where you position that lens will allow you to focus the beam of light from 120 degrees to 60 degrees down to 20 degrees without even having to use the barn doors. So that's a really great way to take control of the light, and it's very simple, but that's all built into this body here. Like I said, the design of this body does also allow you to have these barn doors built in here, which again are nice for a few different reasons. One of those reasons being that you can just simply tape diffusion or something like that to these barn doors to get a larger, more diffused source very easily, and that's super simple to use, and I do that almost all of the time. But another benefit of these is that of course you can cut and control the spill of the light. Most LED panels will have, the multiple shadow issue because of the multiple LED chips that are on there, but because this is a long strip of single LED lights, you can use these to very cleanly cut the light and get a very narrow beam of light if you want to, or open it up and get a very wide spread if you want to. Combining these barn doors with the diffusion filters and the lens that's built into here, you can really shape the light exactly how you want. You can go all the way from a nice wide even spread of light on your background to a really cleanly cut narrow beam of light across your actor's eyes, or on the background for some interest. Your imagination is going to be the only limitation in how you use these lights. The solid metal body also means that you have a really solid base to mount this light, and there's a pin on the back that will go right into the double ball joint mount that they have included here, but also you could use that with anything that has a 5/8 inch socket, or into just a standard grip head, for example. I know a lot of people have talked about how much they love this double ball head, but I'll be brutally honest here, it's my least favorite part of the light, but let me explain why. So it's not terrible at all. It does what it's supposed to do, and it's nice to have that kind of double flexibility there of the double ball joint. But you do have to tighten this down really tight to get it to stay in place, especially with the heavier and larger 36-inch version, which I have here. And this lever which you tighten it down with is actually plastic, and to be honest, it doesn't necessarily feel like the best quality plastic. It's not the worst either, but I think, again, the reason I'm talking about this so much is just because the rest of the light is so incredibly robust and well made and heavy duty. I'm just not sure why they stopped here. What's more of a problem for me though is just that it's a bit awkward to position this light, to hold it and position it physically when you loosen that up. You have a couple of ways you could do that. You could either grab onto half of this double ball joint here, but it's kind of tight, and especially with the heavier 36-inch again, you don't have a lot of really good leverage there to position it. The other way you could do it, of course, is just to grab the light itself and loosen this up and position it, but it's a little bit awkward. Again, I don't have the biggest hands, and this is a little bit large, and it's a little bit, uncomfortable to hold because of just the shape of it. So, especially in the winter with dry, cold hands, it's not the most pleasant way to grab this and reposition it. So I think that just very simply, a couple of little simple metal handles that could come out here and just give you somewhere to grab securely and easily while you loosen this up and reposition it would be a great and simple, easy solution that doesn't take up a whole lot of extra space or money in production costs. You could just have one on either side of the mount here, depending on, how you're going to be positioning it. You could use one or the other or both. I think it'd be a very simple solution, and I would be really happy to see that as something that's added, because this design, the all metal kind of design of this, does mean that it's actually a little bit modular. And I think that that might be something that they could actually develop in the future, and you could add on to this without having to totally buy a new light, which is really cool. So Flolight, if you're listening, let's get some handles for this so that way it's easier to use. These lights can be powered either from the mains or from a battery on the control box. And when you purchase this, you can choose either a V-mount or an Anton Bauer battery plate. And the control box itself is very simple. There's a power switch on the top, which will rock in either direction depending on if you're using battery power or wall power. And on the front, you have just a very simple display screen with a big knob that can be both turned and pushed. Using the bicolor lights, pushing this twice will change between controlling the color temperature and the power. And in terms of power, you can go from 1% up to 100% in 5% increments. In terms of color, you can go all the way down to 3200 degrees Kelvin and all the way up to 5600 degrees Kelvin in 100 degree increments. And pushing this button once will simply turn the light off and on. On the bottom, you have the in and out for power, and these are XLR style cables. And if you're using battery power, you only need the cable to connect it to the light. But if you want to power this from the wall, there is also a cable included, which will plug right into here and then go into the wall for you. The control box itself is very lightweight, surprisingly lightweight, but it's all metal. And there's, a couple holes on here where you could mount this however you want. You could put a strap on there, you could screw this in somewhere, you could attach some additional kind of mounting option on here, but there is nothing on here out of the box. I've just been putting it on the floor and it's worked out fine for me, but depending on your setup, you could attach this however you want. There are a couple of holes in there, so you could attach something to make this easier to hang onto your light stand or something like that. These lights have a very high CRI rating, and they're fairly bright. I believe they're 50 and 100 watts, though to be honest with you, on the website it doesn't make it clear if that's for the daylight only versions or if the bicolor versions are the same power. But in any case, they're pretty bright, and I'm going to show you here some samples just to show you in terms of camera settings how bright they actually are. Last up, I just want to talk about their cases a little bit, because I really do like these cases, and I love having cases included in general because it just makes these lights a lot easier to bring on location. Overall, they're well padded and really, really nicely made. They feel very high quality, and they even have some rubber feet on the bottom. These lights are relatively low profile, so when you put them into the main compartment, there is some space above them, and that means that you can put these into the case with that double ball mount attached, so that way you can just quickly take them out and put them onto a light stand without having to attach anything. And you can also use that space to put the control box or to put cables or something like that. And again, this is all metal, so you really don't have to worry about putting stuff on top of it in there, because nothing's going to break. There are a couple of straps on the bottom of the case which you can use to hold the light down if you're worried about them flapping around inside the case, because again, there is a little bit of dead space above them, especially if you don't have that ball head attached. If you're standing them up on their end, for example, I don't think anything's going to break. Like I said, these are incredibly rugged. No matter how much they flap around inside of this padded case, I don't think you're going to get any damage whatsoever, but you do have those straps there if you want to use them to hold it down. So like I said, I've been loving these lights in a handful of different setups so far, and I'm sure that I will find more and more setups that I really like to use them in, but let's just go over quickly how I've been using them over the past couple weeks. One way that I've been using them a lot over the past couple of weeks is just to throw them up over a table for some kind of tabletop photography or tabletop video, because the long design means that you get a nice even spread of light over the entire length of the table, and you can very easily throw some diffusion paper onto the barn doors and get a nice soft light if you want, without taking up as much space as a larger softbox would. Another way that I've been using them a lot is as a rim light or a hair light, either for portraits or for talking heads or things like that, and they've been really, really perfect for a few different reasons. The barn doors means that you can very easily control the spill of light from falling onto your background, from falling onto your lens. The bicolor design means that you can get some cool effects mixing different color temperatures in your photos. And also just the compact design means you can really tuck them away into a corner, out of the way of your camera without having to need a lot of space. And it's been perfect for those use, because those three things just combine to make it an absolutely ideal rim light or hair light. And that's a small thing maybe, but it really makes a big difference in a lot of situations. So I love using them for that use. I've also really liked just turning these around towards my background, and again, like I said before, you can go from a really nice even spread of light to light your whole background down to a nice narrow beam of light to get something cool like a slash of light across your background to create some interest. And again, you can use the bicolor option to get a little bit more variety in that as well. Just they've been really, really useful in both of those setups, and in a lot of cases I find myself using both of these lights behind the talent, one as a rim light and one as a background light, and you can just get a lot of variety with that combination. And again, they don't take up a lot of space, which is always, always appreciated for me. So once again, I think that your imagination will be the only limitation in how you can use these. You can use these as a key light, as a kicker light, as a background light, as an accent light, as a fill light. You really can use these for absolutely anything that you want to, and they adapt very, very well. They may not be the absolute cheapest on the market, but they are incredibly solidly built, very, very versatile with especially the bicolor option, the focusing lens, the diffusion options that you can use on this very easily. And they don't take up a lot of space, which is huge for me. They're battery powered or wall powered, and they're fairly bright. So there's a lot to like about these lights and very little to dislike. So if you are looking at these lights and considering them, I highly recommend it. I do not think you'll be disappointed, and these are a lot of fun to have in your kit. If you have any questions or comments, as always, leave them down below and I will do my best to get back to you. If you liked this video or found it helpful, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe to see more in the future, and as always, thank you for watching.